Hello and welcome everyone. This is another podcast interview here live in the Primal Polarity series. And today I'm really excited to bring on Madeline Moon, who many of you will know. She's an amazing author and teacher in the polarity space, who I know I've enjoyed her content. Really excited to bring you guys this amazing interview. It's gonna be really good stuff. So if you're tuning in now and watching live, I'd love for you to type in the comments what you're excited about, what is alive for you. And if you're watching this later, I'd love for you to type in replay and share what your takeaways are from this interview. So if you're into masculine and feminine polarity, if you're excited to dive deeper into how relationships work, what are the underlying energetics, this is going to be a great interview for you. So I'm going to bring Madeline on here. What's up, everybody joining? Where are you in the world? Type in the comments where you're tuning in from. All right.
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Amazing. How are you, Madeline?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Really good. I'm so glad to have you on and do this interview. I've been following your work for a while, I think years, and
Aw.
just love the way you deliver content, the way you write, and I'm really
Mm.
excited for this one. So thank you for being here.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know how long we've been connected, but I feel like we've been connected for years in some capacity. I remember seeing your profile. I don't even know how long ago, but a long time ago. So it's sweet to finally connect um, phone to phone in
Yeah,
this
totally.
way and drop in.
Totally. So Madeline, for the folks that maybe are going to watch this later on YouTube or here, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Who are you and what is your work all about?
Yeah, so I am a creative intimacy teacher primarily for women, though I do have men who follow me. And I teach something that I've really come to find over the past couple years around this world of polarity and feminine embodiment, but I wanted to fill in some gaps on where I felt that this work was really missing from a woman's perspective for women. And the thing for me that I really felt was missing was the infinite amount of ways that are actually available for a woman to be and to express and to embody and to own her power. And I felt that in my own personal experiences, I've found myself kind of floating from box to box to box to box. Even the polarity world, it's a beautiful tool, and it's very easy to find yourself yet again in it, in a box, in a way, as a feminine being. And so I help women learn how to basically put that box through a shredder and let the cardboard pieces fly, and um, really envision and embody the thousands of different versions of woman that's living inside of them. And I help them do that through archetypes and through acting and through improv and through traditional feminine embodiment strategies, and then bring that to their beloved, bring that into their sex life, and then bring that into the world and create something magical with it. So there's a lot of different ways you can be an artist of love with yourself, with a partner, a beloved, and then with the world. Yes, someone said the many faces of Shakti. Exactly.
Yeah, beautifully said. Your improv is hilarious. I also love improv and acting and comedy as a way to express and dance with the archetypes. I think that's a brilliant tool that's pretty underutilized in the polarity space. So thank you for bringing your comedy and also the teachings that I know are in that work that you do. Madeline, I got to ask, like, how did you find your way into this work? Do you have a hero's journey where you were doing something different with your life and this work came to you? Like, how did you get involved in this?
Yeah, so I always like to include my childhood because what we do as adults is like a direct path from the childhood. There's always reasons why we're doing what we do today, either conscious or unconscious. And I was raised in a in an incredibly like underbelly dark kind of manipulation childhood. Like I didn't see it, I didn't know that. I was just raised through this family and I was like, Mom, Dad, you're gods. But there was a lot of insidious patriarchal messaging. I was raised in a Christian household, but it was really emotionally abusive. So I was raised through this lens of women are less than, I need to be absolutely perfect, but perfect, the definition would always shift based off of my mother's mood. You know, perfect one day would be totally wrong and like against God's wishes. You know, God was kind of brought in these weird ways that were used against me as a child. And so I grew up thinking that like God like very quickly does not approve of me, and I need to always obey men. You know, there was all these weird rules I grew up with around don't disrespect men, don't withhold sex from men, don't with men, but also at the same time, be a secret, be a mystery. So there's weird, like, you know, obey men, listen to men, and also you're the neck and you can turn them any way you want. And I'm like, which is it? I don't understand. And I'm young. I'm like, why am I even thinking about my
Right.
life through the lens of boys and men? And everything I wore was about, am I being a temptress? Am I gonna make men stumble and not follow God because I'm showing too much cleavage or something like that? So I was basically wearing like a long dress all the time to hide myself. And all of this pressure really, in my body, you know, energy has to go some way. It either goes up for people and they kind of go high in the clouds to deal with life by disassociating from all of it. Some people hunker down and they bring their energy down low. You can see my eyebrows kind of like embodying what that looks like. Some people, like, you know, they cling, they get really anxious, they come forward, they're like, let's merge. And my energy that needed to go somewhere to process things really went down. I became a rigid archetype. So I found myself in the world of bodybuilding. I became a fitness model and had all these eating disorders. And that was me trying to find a place for the energy to go. So for me, it was down. It was like, let's just go down, 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 and have as much control as possible. And through that process, I had these really big, thank goddess, I had these massive breaking open moments of just like, it sucks to live life with so much control and anxiety and perfection. And that led to eventual breaking opens that I just fully had these like, bathroom floor breakdowns. And that was really, those crying moments on the floor were really like the first piece to me not trying to send my energy down into rigidity and kind of like opening like this. And it was painful, but these little breaking open moments started to happen. And this was probably around 22 years old. And I started to find myself in the position of teaching other women how to move through body image and disordered eating, which then led into just like life coaching, which then around 25, I found the world of intimacy. And that's when I was like, oh, that's what I'm here to do. And I probably jumped into teaching it before I was ready. I really
Sure.
needed to focus on being it. But at that time, you know, the only thing that made sense to me was like, you teach the thing you want to learn. And so I ended up getting all these teachers and going deep into it and having the relationship immersions that continue to this day to teach me all of the things about relationship and all the places we hide and hold back. So it was really, it felt so divinely guided. Like this whole story, I think, is written in the stars with the family unit that I chose and how I ended up here today. I think our souls are really sovereign over our story. And we choose families that give us the lessons we need to learn in order to fulfill our dharma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I can relate to the religion piece. I was raised Catholic, and for many reasons, which we don't have time to go into, I think religion has done a great disservice to humanity by not only oppressing the feminine, but oppressing the masculine and erotic innocence, and just creating a ton of distortions to create, you know, basically good married couples that will follow some kind of ideology. And obviously that's falling away in this day and age. And what you're saying about the archetypes, how the energy has to move in a direction, right? It can't be created or destroyed, and it can't be denied. So when you're working with women, Madeline, is this often what you see is kind of that axis between maybe more avoidant or rigid or shutting down, or more anxious and the codependency being created? Is that something you are encountering a lot with clients in this space?
Mhm. Yes, I used to attract much more of that, especially when I was teaching like body image stuff back in the day. There was a lot of the pendulum swinging between having clients who had severe anxiety and clients who had, um, severe avoidance. Right now, though, the most common thing that I experience with clients and women, just people who follow me, um, is it's a subtle fear of revealing your cards, like revealing your truth. It's very subtle because they're not super anxious, they're not super avoidant, they can get by in this partnership, and yet there is almost like this poker face stoicism, where a truth wants to come through, like something hurts your feelings, and there's just this immediate, I'm not going to show that, I'm not going to reveal that, I'm fine. And it can go on for years and years and years, and before you know it, there's actually this like 10-year tumor that's in between, like a boulder, you and your beloved, and no one's willing to talk about it, about all the things that have built up over the years, because women particularly don't want to make their partner feel bad, like feel bad. And yet you're mothering when you do that.
Right.
You're mothering your partner, and it's reverse polarity. You
Mm.
think you're taking care of them in their heart because they're a good man. You're actually mothering them, and you're not taking the relationship as deep as you can and helping create him to be the king he is, because you're so afraid of hurting his feelings, and therefore you shut down on your own potential oracle life force, the part of you that sees this is a good man and he's better than this, and I'm going to take him deeper by encouraging him to be even more in integrity. And I did a video on this recently where there's two ways to invite your partner into deeper integrity for women. Is number one, you're bad, you suck, be better. And then there's, you're amazing, I choose you, and be better. And it's different, it's different for women. I think someone asked me that too, is like, is it the same for women? And it's not. I'm sure you're very familiar with this, Kevin. It's not so much that men are craving that women are in deeper integrity. We want the integrity, and what men are typically craving from women is more of that truthful energy, that truthful expression that's trying to come through, because that's where the radiance is.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Totally. And I love that you're bringing this up, because this is a drastically different strategy to what Me Too and cancel culture and some of the attacks that I see on men and masculinity. That, I think most people don't see it that way, but that's how it's impacting men. And I obviously get a front row seat to a lot of men that are struggling in relationship, walking on eggshells, not knowing how to break this mothering dynamic, and also not knowing how to help their partner, encourage them, and help themselves in that polarized dynamic. And I love that you brought up reverse polarity. I would love your kind of transmission or definition of this, because I agree the polarity space can be another box, and certainly a lot of folks, I had my own version of that years ago, where it just becomes another ideology, right, to practice. But I think there's a lived truth of it, which you're referring to in these archetypes. You're referring to as the king and the oracle, which I resonate with. Like, what is proper polarity, or like polarity that's really working? How would you describe that for folks listening?
Yeah. Uh, yeah, this is very close to my heart. Um, yeah, because I was just in a dynamic that was so much polarity, um, and it was a prison in a way, not the relationship in itself, but that dynamic that couldn't shake off. Because if and I don't want to blame polarity for this, particularly because I just want to say this: David Data, who created a lot of this work, all of these humans have like latched on to it since. It's now grown so much bigger than what like his work that came through is. So when I say polarity, I want to make it clear that I'm not saying like David Data, you know, because
Right.
I don't know how he feels about what's happened with his work since then. And I think that's an issue that's starting to happen, is that, you know, his name is kind of getting muddied with all the problems that are about with it. And I actually think part of the, I mean, I want to separate his work from just what's been happening with this culture, because all
Hmm.
these teachers have come from this work and they all have their own personal agendas with it at times. And I can see it and I can smell it and I can feel it. And like I was saying, it's like I was just in a relationship dynamic where this was so in the forefront of having these kinds of roles. And I'm also not saying that it's my previous partner's responsibility or job or anything like that. But I am saying that when you enter polarity as like a theme of like, this is what the partnership is, you are putting your beloved in a specific role that's going to suck the life force out of his innate wild masculine and messy masculine expression that's supposed to breathe, because he's human. And it's the same thing for women. When you put a female in the role because you're living in the umbrella of polarity, then her baseline needs to all of a sudden be this fully revealing goddess, soft and mushy and messy, and um, an expression of love and light. And there begins to become this little shame piece around when she is not love and light, and when she's actually deeply hurt and her inner child wounds are coming up, and she's expected to all of a sudden find her open heart immediately. Sometimes it's not safe to find your open heart immediately. Sometimes it's traumatic. And what I had experienced a few times is this mistrust in my body's own innate intelligence around opening and around closing. And in polarity, if there's this assumption that a good woman is constantly opening her heart, then it makes maybe the partner or herself blame herself when her heart is closing. But
Mm.
there is intelligence in the heart closing, and it's not so much that she shouldn't close her heart. Actually, everyone should back off and let her do what she needs to do because she's a sovereign being, but she'll find her way back. So healthy polarity is about letting this thing be a tool that enters into the umbrella of the union, not the union itself. It's supposed to be a tiny tool, just
Right.
like authentic relating is a tool. You don't want your entire life to be authentic relating. That would be exhausting, to constantly be reflecting each other's projections and everything. It goes inside, and it's something you get to evoke and invoke when the moment is needed, when the relationship is getting stale or dull, or if you're like in this like trauma bond cycle. Polarity is a beautiful way to help break that and to shift the moment, take a left turn in a new direction, come back to love. Come back to love. It's beautiful for that. It's beautiful for supporting your partner in just in case anyone is not familiar with these concepts, the feminine is energy and the masculine is consciousness. So if the partnership is getting really boring and both people are just in this routine, then she can bring energy and play and get really expressive, or get very, I don't like throwing out Kali's name as if she's just this, her name is not always held with the deepest reverence, but there is an aspect, a very sacred aspect of a woman that has this Kali energy that she can whip it out. And it's this bright priestess or oracle or enchantress, but there's also like the dark feminine that needs to have value. And both of these can be brought into partnership to wake it up. And him too. Oh my God. If I'm feeling confused and lost and I don't know what to do, I want to run into my beloved's arms and have him support me in my direction. Like, ah, I like I own this house and I own a business, and sometimes it becomes so overwhelming, and having someone that I can just fully be like, I don't want to have a business, like go into like my like I just want to be taken care of. And maybe it's just for an evening where he then steps into that of, I got you, I will take care of you, I'm ordering dinner, go take that bath. There are ways we can do this for each other. And sometimes she's to be in the masculine and he's to be in the feminine. There are ways we can bring energy when our partner would benefit from our energy, either one. And there's ways we can bring clarity and direction when our partner or ourselves need that.
Totally. Really well said. A lot of deep personal experience and direct experience with this is what I'm hearing in your share here. And the phrase comes to mind, you know, the map is not the territory. Mm-hmm. So the map of Austin, Texas is not Austin as you would walk the streets or trails or buildings. And the map of polarity is not how a relationship actually is lived. It's a map, it's a tool. And like you said, it's really amazing when things aren't working well, or you have a dynamic that is not really juicy, or maybe the sexuality or the spontaneity or the eroticism has kind of been put on the back burner for whatever reason, which I think is a bit of an epidemic in the modern world, and certainly in marriages, which is probably part of why divorce rate and infidelity and all this question around gender confusion is coming up. I see it as a very natural process in evolution, but a lot of folks have gotten caught in the map of polarity, right? And like the dogma, I don't think Data even understood the impact of his work, right? Or all the teachers that picked it up after him, which is, for me, it goes back to hermetics and natural law and the law of polarity as described by many ancients through many names of the art of contrast and the dance between these primordial forces, because we're in this like dual universe and there's no denying it. And so what do you say to people that just want to go non-dual? They want to say, you know, I don't need to have this masculine and feminine dynamic. Can both partners just embody both and it just be free? And, you know, is there utility to learning polarity? Or can we just go straight into a non-dual state and have strong independent women and men that are, you know, stay-at-home dads? And obviously that can work. You know, is this serving society? Is this serving civilization? These are questions I ask myself a lot. I'm curious what you think.
I am so hands off with what anyone wants to do. Like, you know, it's, I'm a 4 in the Enneagram, which if anyone's familiar with that, it's like I'm the individualist. I have no interest in ever telling anybody else what to do. So when people come to me and they're like, I don't want to live that way, I'm like, great, don't. You know, it just never made sense to me of like, you know, telling anybody ever what they need to do. I so am not interested in that. What I am interested in is when people come to me and they're like, hey, I'm bitter and resentful all the time. And I am, you know, I can't figure it out. And I'm like, well, when's the last time you really fucked well? You know, it's oftentimes people don't see this. It's that, especially for women, because I work primarily with women, that like, yeah, you're going to get very upset over time and you're going to feel bitter and you're going to feel resentful because you're not being well fucked, and you're not being well fucked because you're carrying all the weight of the relationship and your body's drying up. And they don't normally make these connections of that's why, because they're just like, I need to be pulling in most of the money and I need to be the strong independent woman because my mother was screwed over by so many men and I'll never be in that position like she was. So I'm going to always prove that I'm going to make the money and I'll pay for the dinners and I'll choose a man who accepts that and wants that. And it's great. And there's something that happens for a lot of women's bodies where they dry up in this kind of circumstance. So you can make all the money, you can be the head of the household, and notice what your body is saying when you start to feel less attracted to your partner. Could it be possible that there is a polarity issue there and that you're wanting him to open your door at the same time that he'll also pin your wrist down in bed? Like we crave diversity, we crave range in our partnerships. Yeah, it's like, it's why it's why when I've dated guys who have been so sweet and would pick me up from the airport and would make me dinner, I would be like, this is awesome, but something is missing. Like, and I just can't, I could never go back to only having that flavor. It's so lovely. I love the flavor of having my door opened, but it is not enough for a lifetime. And I don't have any children, but I know that having kids where there's even more responsibility that I would be holding of guiding this little child and taking care of them, I would need to also be erotically dominated in certain instances at the same time that I would also be tenderly loved. And men, as far as I understand and know, are craving the same thing. They want the version of woman who is willing to say, I trust you, I will follow you, at the same time that they want the version of woman who's going to say, I'm not putting up with that today. I love you, and no, not like a mother way, but like, you're better than that. You're my king. Like, I see the best in you, and I'm going to call you forward. So they want those versions of her too. This is the gift of polarity. This is what polarity offers us. We can, of course, live this tantric, sacred union, love and light lifestyle where we're all one and we all share all the split roles, but just notice what happens in your body when you don't feel like you can ever go deep in one area or the other. I mean, it's like you can have, like, the way I see it is that, the tantra slash sacred union is mostly love and light. It's like the love and light harmony, uh, graceful, divine union, but it's lacking dark fuck. And then polarity is a lot about creating more of that fuck, but it's not always including light and love and union, in my experience. Some teachers may disagree with me, but that's what I've experienced. So we learn sacred union through healthy communication, through learning how to be both the feminine and the masculine, to let each other have space, to make life work together, to create a well-oiled engine. This is where, like, the foundation of life happens, right? And so then we have polarity, which brings in the fuck energy, which creates diversity, which invokes range, which brings surprising elements to the partnership. Both are necessary to me. Again, if people are like, that's not the life I want to live, I'm like, great. I don't think my grandparents lived that life, and they were together forever and loved each other forever. So people get to decide what kind of partnership they desire, but the one that I want, because relationship is like my deepest dharma, is all of it. I want to go deep into healthy communication, sacred union, love fest, and dark eroticism, polarity infused fuck.
Yes, well said. I think the Neo Tantra community, if you go back to like the OG Tantra, whether it's Taoist or Hindu, it looks very different than what you'll see in your
Yeah.
friendly neighborhood Neo Tantra coach. So I think a lot of what you said is hitting the nail on the head, and I think a lot of folks here will resonate. And also, yeah, there's parts of like BDSM, kink community, and where polarity's gone extreme, where like there isn't care and love. It's kind of like it almost becomes traumatic in the absence of that union energy. So there's
Yeah.
definitely a middle way, and I'm interested in that as well in my work, and that's what I'm trying to really discover and find, because relationship is such a big part of my dharma as well. And also evolutionary theory, and just the fact of, we got here, we're on the planet, 7 billion, almost 8 billion now, because men and women had to figure some shit out together and have children. So there's a very real utility and pragmatism to it, where, how are you going to be handling reality, the bank account, kids, danger, changing conditions, all the things of village, community, civilization life, without polarity and the symbiosis between masculine and feminine. I don't see a way you can do it. And I think that's largely why we've gotten to where we have in the world, because this hasn't been taught in schools. No one's educating us on how to relate, how to communicate, and how to create a healthy bond with a man and woman. So I'd love for you to go into what you said earlier, because this is something I am deeply passionate about, and that's when a man and woman, they've gotten past some of this basic stuff, right? They're not doing Polarity 101 or Love and Light 101. They have some tools. They've gotten deeper into the work. Maybe they have kids. What is the aspect of the feminine that you named the oracle? What does that look like in the actual relationship? And maybe the correlate there is like the king or the, you know, the healthy father archetype. You can use a lot of names for the masculine version of this. What does that look like for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what's coming to me is not so much for a relationship that's gone really deep and done all the work, but even from the very beginning of a first date. Um, because women's bodies have been talking for a very long time in moments that feel unconscious. And at least for myself, I didn't realize for years that that's what it was. So a very simple example would be you go on a first date with someone and they keep checking their phone. Like they're texting and it's like yeah, they're getting back to something or they're interrupting a conversation. I mean, it's rude, but it's more than that. It's like there's a lapse of consciousness that this man in front of you has, where that's the world that he lives in. But you, if your body, if your heart goes like, like what you're actually feeling is the one in you who is sensing something that he's doing all the time in the world. He's probably like, let's think about this as a metaphor. He's probably looking at his phone all the time in conversations in the world. So maybe that looks like interrupting people when they're talking, or arriving late to meetings, or saying he'll do something that he doesn't follow through in. Like there's some kind of thing you're sensing about this person. There's a lapse of integrity, perhaps. I'm not saying go into a conversation sharing all of that with him, being like, you're looking at your phone, so it means you do all these other things. I'm just pointing out that a lot of times there's these little tiny things that happen in moments where your body goes, ooh, and there are other bodies out in the world with that man that probably do that too. You know, there's a lapse of consciousness that you're feeling, and that can go deeper and deeper the more that you go into relationship, like a partner that says they will pay you back for something, but they just never tend to like initiate paying you back. And it might actually be that that partner that you're with has other people that they've never paid back. And what's like the bigger thing about this person is that he's become unreliable to his friends, because he's the guy in the group that says, hey, will you grab that, I'll pay you back later, never does, and makes everyone feel kind of uncomfortable and awkward to have to ask them over and over and over again, will you pay me back? So when your heart feels something, that's a beautiful opportunity for you to be like, hey, my love, I'm noticing that every time you say you're going to pay me back about this, you actually don't. And I'm wondering if there's something there. Is it that you just forget, or is it that you don't want to, or is there something more that I'm missing here? Because I'm noticing it's making me trust a little less in that area, and I really want to trust you fully. So you see, there's a way that you can point out something at the same time that you're leaning in and you're showing him why it's important to you. It's not just you're a bad boy, you never pay me back. It's you're a good man, and I'm noticing this is coming up, and I want to trust you more, but this is in the way. What can we do about it? And it's also good to let him figure out what he's going to do about it, rather than create the structure and say, this is what we're going to do about it. Let him figure it out. Like, point out the thing as your oracle heart does, and then lean back, and then let him take initiative. And to the best of your ability, don't be like side eye watching him. Like, you got to keep doing this thing. Relax, rest back to the best of your ability. Give him some space to change this behavior. Let him do it poorly. Let him find his way in these things. But and this gets bigger on a bigger scale, of course. Like, I can imagine when you have a child and there's maybe certain stories that your partner may start to pass on to your child, or things around like what it means to be a good man, or how to behave as a good girl, or things like that. There's gonna just continuously be more and more ways of like, oh, when you talk to our daughter that way, I'm feeling the pain of that story being in my life, and I don't really want to raise our child with that story. What's a new story we can create together to give to our child around this? So It's the moments that your heart hurts and you notice your heart start to close. Those are the places your oracle can lead beautifully, because you're sensing something that probably a lot of other women in this past had their heart close around, or employees and coworkers and things like that. And you can make it. I'm fine with people complaining. I'm never going to be like, don't complain, because that's one of the polarity pitfalls, is telling a woman not to complain. And it really drives me nuts. You're allowed to complain. You're allowed to be human. But there is an art form of playing with the idea of how can we move from complaint to invitation. That's
Hmm.
it. You're allowed to complain. And if you want a better results, try making that complaint an invitation and just see what happens.
Yes, brilliantly said. This is the beauty of what you're describing, the oracle, the intuition, the feminine knowing, which I think everyone can relate here, whether you're a feminine being or a masculine being, you've encountered this. And it's about sensing it, trusting it, which is an inner journey, it's an inside job. But then the way you were saying it, it's signaling that back in it from a place of desire and not blame, shame, or guilt, which is kind of, how
Mm-hmm.
our parents might have handled it, which didn't really bode well for those long-term relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you can complain. Yes, you can share when something's out of alignment, when he's out of integrity, but it's all about the skill with which you bring it. And as you were sharing, signaling that like, hey, this doesn't feel good, and here's why. And then leaving the ball in his court, not mothering, not running in to save him, not coddling him. And someone said in the comments, men need a quest. We do need to problem solve. That's what we're really good at and actually will thrive on. And I know so many people probably can look at a past relationship or maybe a current one where that became really tricky to do because we kind of lose trust and this sense, right, from the female
Mm-hmm.
perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And if I can really point out anything here to women, it's that I love doing this with my friends, because my friends tell me, I mean, all my friends and my clients, they tell me exactly what their oracle wants to say, and I just need permission to say it. So, like, I have a friend who is dating somebody and she wants to feel more from him. She just wants more. She wants to know, like, what's happening in your world? Like, do you do, do you miss me? Do you like me? Like, I want to feel you. And she messaged me and she was like, I want to feel him. I can't feel him. And I'm like, great, that's exactly what you say to him. I want to feel you. You're inviting him, because you're not the only woman, you're not the only person that man has left people thinking, like, what is he thinking? I want to feel him. So you get to have that be a sacred role. And it's it's bigger than you and him. It's actually much bigger. It's like, if you decide to take on this position, I know for myself, I've really enjoyed being a woman. This is part of my identity. It's like a woman who kind of drops into people's lives and encourages them to be better. I don't know if we're going to be together forever, but like in this moment, we're in relationship and I'm seeing something and feeling something and I love you and I want to call you in forward. And then the next week we might not even be in each other's lives, but like, I helped him a little bit so that the next woman or his future beloved, there's going to be a depth he can bring to her. I actually love that role of supporting men find deeper depth, not in a mother way, not in a this is my sacred job to come in and make you a better man. I don't know what it's like to be a man. I have no idea. I'm not going to tell you how to embody the masculine better. I'm speaking from a feminine's perspective. I can only give you feedback based off of what it feels like for me to be a woman in your presence. So I want to invite men to, like, it's not even inviting men to be more masculine or be better. It's inviting men to understand the woman body more. That's the way that I feel into inviting men into these places. It's only through the perspective of being a woman and having my own female body, and like, oh, I'm noticing that I'm trusting you a little less because you don't know what you want in relationship. I'm not telling you that you need to know. I'm just telling you, as a woman, I'm trusting you a little bit less because you don't know what you want. And then that, whether or not I'm seeing this person long term, he can take that into his next partnership or the next moment with a woman of, okay, so it will help a woman trust me more if I have a little bit more clarity of what it is that I want. So again, that's another way to take this on as a sacred role as a woman is you're not telling men how to be men. You're just saying your presence, man, makes my woman body feel this kind of way. And here's what I would love to feel more of from you. Take it or leave it. I love you and bless you on your path no matter what.
Beautiful. I mean, this is really the work, right? Is even if it's for a moment in a cafe or just passing, or if it's a 10-year relationship, whatever, we're really training each other how to be more love and literally just open as love. And that's going to ripple into your children, the next 7 generations, everyone you meet in your business, everyone you in your village, in your community. So that if everyone just took that perspective you just shared, I mean, world would change.
Mm-hmm.
There's real power in what you just shared, Madeline. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
For people that want to get in touch with you, obviously they can follow you here on Instagram, but what is new in your world? What's exciting, and how can people get in touch and get involved in your world?
I published a book. You can get my book. It's called Artist of Love. It's, some men have got it, but it's primarily for women, and it's all about becoming the archetypes that you want to become. And I have 4 archetypes that are the Artist of Love archetypes. I go super deep into those in the book, but I also give lots of practices of how you can be the leading actor of your own life and use acting modalities as a non-actor to step into your deepest expression as a feminine being. What life is really craving from you is to unleash that creativity, become the human chandelier that you are, and then bring that into your partnerships. So you can get Artist of Love anywhere online, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, but you can also follow me here. Go to my website, maddiemoon.com. I got lots of master classes and courses you can sign up for, lots of programs, lots of offerings. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for doing this work, Madeline. And everyone that's asking, this is going to be shared on my page and also later on YouTube and my podcast. So make sure you're following me and Madeline, and tag somebody, share this video when it's up for someone that gets to hear this, because these are the things, I certainly wish I knew 10 years ago, dating and in relationships. And I know your work is changing so many lives out there, Madeline. So thank you so much for being with me and sharing all this beautiful knowledge, all this beautiful embodiment. It's been an amazing conversation.
Thank you, Kevin. So nice to be here with you. I really appreciate you inviting me on, and thank you everyone who came live and all your energy. It's so beautiful and yeah, really well received. Thank you.
Amazing. Wherever you are, family, whatever you're doing, go out, be love, open as love. Thank you for being here. See you next time.